The Mongol Empire Explained, Complete History Documentary. Strong. Part 1. The Rise of Genghis Khan, 1162–1185. Introduction. Imagine an empire so vast that a messenger could ride for months without ever leaving its borders. An empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe. An empire that changed the course of world history forever. This was the Mongol Empire. At its height, it became the largest contiguous land empire ever created. Its warriors conquered mighty kingdoms, defeated powerful armies, and connected east and west like never before. But the story did not begin with an emperor. It began with a hungry boy. A boy abandoned by his own people. A boy who lived through betrayal, starvation, and war. That boy would one day become Genghis Khan, one of history's greatest military leaders. This is the story of how a poor child from the Mongolian steppe rose to build an empire that transformed the world. H1. Chapter 1. The World Before the Mongols. Long before the Mongol Empire existed, the vast grasslands of Central Asia were home to countless nomadic tribes. These endless plains, known as the Mongolian steppe, stretched for thousands of miles. The land was harsh. Winters were bitterly cold. Summers were dry and unforgiving. There were no great cities, no stone castles, no massive farms. Instead, people lived in portable tents called gurs, also known as yurts. Their lives depended on horses, sheep, goats, cattle, and hunting. From childhood, boys and girls learned to ride horses. By the age of 5, many children could ride across the open plains with remarkable skill. Archery was equally important. Every warrior practiced shooting arrows while riding at full speed. Life on the steppe demanded strength. Only the toughest survived. The Mongol tribes constantly competed for food, grazing land, and power. Small disputes often turned into violent battles. Alliances changed quickly. Friends became enemies overnight. In this dangerous world, loyalty was precious, and betrayal was common. No one could have imagined that one leader would soon unite these divided tribes and build an empire unlike any the world had ever seen. Without Yasuge, the family's power disappeared almost overnight. The tribes that had once followed his father abandoned Temujin's family. No one wanted to support a widow and her children. Holun and her children were left alone on the harsh Mongolian steppe. Food became scarce. The family survived by gathering wild berries, roots, fish, and small animals. Many days passed without enough food. Hunger became a constant companion. The children wore worn-out clothing and lived through freezing winters with almost nothing. Despite these hardships, Holun refused to surrender. She taught her children that survival depended on courage, unity, and determination. Temujin learned an important lesson during these difficult years. He realized that loyalty could not simply be inherited, it had to be earned. He also learned that weakness invited betrayal. Only strength could protect those he loved. These painful experiences shaped the leader he would later become. The boy who had once dreamed of a peaceful life was slowly becoming a hardened survivor. But even greater challenges still lay ahead. Chapter 4. Betrayal, Captivity, and Escape. Life on the Mongolian steppe was never peaceful. As Temujin grew older, new enemies began to emerge. Without his father's protection, rival tribes saw him as weak. One of the most dangerous was the Taichia tribe. They believed Temujin could one day become a threat. Before long, they captured him. His hands were locked inside a heavy wooden collar. He was treated as a prisoner and displayed as an example to others. For many young men, such imprisonment would have meant the end. But Temujin refused to accept defeat. He carefully watched his captors. He waited for the perfect opportunity. One night, while the guards became distracted, Temujin escaped into the darkness. He hid in a nearby river, using only his nose to breathe above the water. The search continued for hours. Then, something unexpected happened. A compassionate family secretly gave him shelter. They risked their own lives to protect him. With their help, Temujin escaped safely. Years later, after becoming a powerful ruler, he never forgot their kindness. He rewarded them with honor and important positions in his empire. This experience shaped one of his greatest beliefs. True loyalty was more valuable than noble birth. Chapter 5. The Rescue of Bertay. As Temujin became stronger, he returned to fulfill a promise made during childhood. He married Bertay, the young woman chosen years earlier by his father. Their marriage marked a new beginning. But happiness did not last. Soon after the wedding, the Merkit tribe launched a surprise attack. They raided Temujin's camp during the night. Bertay was captured and taken away. The attack was deeply personal. Years earlier, Temujin's father had taken Hoelin, Temujin's mother, from the Merkit tribe. Now they sought revenge. Temujin was devastated. He knew he could not rescue Borta alone. So he turned to two powerful allies. One was Togrul Khan, ruler of the Kariat tribe, and an old friend of Temujin's father. The other was his childhood blood brother, Jamuka. Together, they gathered thousands of horsemen. The combined army launched a sudden attack against the Merkit. The rescue mission was successful. Borta was freed and returned safely to Temujin. The victory greatly increased his reputation. For the first time, many tribes began to see him as a capable military leader. For the first time, many tribes began to see him as a capable military leader. Chapter 6. Friendship becomes rivalry. Among all of Temujin's companions, none was more important than Jamuka. The two had grown up together. They had sworn eternal brotherhood according to Mongol tradition. For many years, they fought side by side. But their visions for the future were very different. Jamuka believed that only noble families should rule. He supported the old traditions of tribal aristocracy. Temujin believed something entirely different. He promoted warriors based on courage, skill, and loyalty, not family background. This new idea attracted many talented followers. Poor shepherds, hunters, ordinary horsemen, men who had never before been given opportunities to lead. As Temujin's influence grew, many warriors abandoned Jamuka and joined him instead. The friendship between the two men slowly collapsed. Before long, they became bitter enemies. Their conflict would decide the future of Mongolia. Chapter 7. The Rise of a New Leader. During the 1190s, Temujin won battle after battle. His army became larger with every victory. Unlike other tribal chiefs, he enforced strict discipline. Loot had to be shared fairly. Cowardice was punished. Bravery was rewarded. He organized his soldiers into groups of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. This simple but highly effective system allowed the Mongol army to move with incredible speed and coordination. Temujin also welcomed people from defeated tribes into his own ranks instead of destroying them. Former enemies became loyal soldiers. His growing army included warriors from many different clans. Instead of dividing people by tribe, Temujin united them under one purpose. Word of his victories spread across the Mongolian steppe. Some tribes willingly joined him, others resisted and were defeated. By the end of the decade, one truth had become impossible to ignore. A new power was rising. For the first time in generations, one man was beginning to unite the divided tribes of Mongolia. The young boy who had once struggled to survive hunger and betrayal was becoming the most feared leader on the steppe. Chapter 4. Betrayal, Captivity, and Escape. Life on the Mongolian steppe was never peaceful. As Temujin grew older, new enemies began to emerge. Without his father's protection, rival tribes saw him as weak. One of the most dangerous was the strong Taichud tribe. They believed Temujin could one day become a threat. Before long, they captured him. His hands were locked inside a heavy wooden collar. He was treated as a prisoner and displayed as an example to others. For many young men, such imprisonment would have meant the end. But Temujin refused to accept defeat. He waited for the perfect opportunity. One night, while the guards became distracted, Temujin escaped into the darkness. He hid in a nearby river, using only his nose to breathe above the water. The search continued for hours. Then, something unexpected happened. A compassionate family secretly gave him shelter. They risked their own lives to protect him. With their help, Temujin escaped safely. Years later, after becoming a powerful ruler, he never forgot their kindness. He rewarded them with honor and important positions in his empire. This experience shaped one of his greatest beliefs. True loyalty was more valuable than noble birth. Chapter 8. The Fall of Jamukha. By the late 1190s, the struggle for control of the Mongolian steppe had reached its final stage. Only two great leaders remained, Temujin and his former blood brother, Jamukha. Their friendship had long since disappeared. Now they fought for the future of all Mongolia. Jamukha still believed that only noble families deserved to rule. Temujin believed that loyalty, courage, and ability mattered more than birth. Many warriors chose Temujin. They admired his fairness. He rewarded brave soldiers regardless of their family background. As more tribes joined him, Jamukha's influence weakened. Several important battles followed. Each victory strengthened Temujin's reputation. Eventually, many of Jamukha's own followers abandoned him. Some even captured their leader and brought him before Temujin. They hoped for a reward. Instead, Temujin punished them. He believed that anyone willing to betray their own leader could never be trusted. Jamukha accepted his fate with dignity. According to tradition, he asked for an honorable death without bloodshed. Temujin granted his final request. With Jamukha gone, no rival remained powerful enough to challenge him. The Mongolian steppe was finally united under one leader. Chapter 9. The Birth of Genghis Khan. In the spring of 1206, tribal leaders from across Mongolia gathered beside the Onon River. It was one of the most important meetings in Mongolian history. The assembly, known as the Kurultai, brought together chiefs from dozens of tribes. After years of war, they made a historic decision. Temujin was chosen as the supreme ruler of all the Mongols, Genghis Khan. Although historians still debate its exact meaning, many believe it can be translated as universal ruler or oceanic ruler. For the first time, the scattered Mongol tribes became one united nation. The years of tribal warfare were over. A new empire had been born. Genghis Khan immediately began building a strong central government. He replaced tribal loyalties with loyalty to the state. Commanders were promoted because of talent rather than noble birth. He introduced new laws called the Yasa. The code emphasized discipline, honesty, military obedience, and justice. Stealing livestock became a serious crime. Cowardice on the battlefield was harshly punished. Loyalty was rewarded generously. These reforms transformed the Mongols from divided tribes into one of the most disciplined military societies in history. Chapter 10. Creating the world's most feared army. Genghis Khan understood that victory depended on organization. He reorganized his army using a decimal system. 10 soldiers formed 1 unit. 10 units formed 100. 10 hundreds formed 1,000. 10 thousands formed a tumen, the largest military formation. This system made command simple and efficient. Orders traveled quickly. Every soldier knew exactly where he belonged. Training was constant. Every warrior mastered horseback riding. Archery became second nature. Mongol horsemen could fire arrows accurately while riding at full speed. Each warrior carried several bows, multiple weapons, and rode with several horses. By changing horses during long journeys, Mongol armies could travel incredible distances without slowing down. Discipline became absolute. No soldier was allowed to abandon his unit. Loot was shared fairly after victory. Success belonged to the entire army, not just individuals. Warriors. Genghis Khan also built one of history's greatest intelligence networks. Scouts gathered information before every campaign. Messengers carried orders across enormous distances using fresh horses waiting at relay stations. Communication became one of the Mongols' greatest advantages. Their enemies often underestimated them. They saw only nomadic horsemen. They failed to recognize that they were facing one of the most organized military forces the world had ever known.